The cuddly Morris and the powerful Great Protector are just two of the incredible creatures who play a big role in Marvel Studios' Shang and the Legend of the Ten Rings. To learn more about how they were brought to life, I'm speaking with VFX supervisor Christopher Townsend. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
This film brings so many new creatures into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How did you work with the visual development team to envision these characters and then actually bring them to life with VFX?
So working with the Viz Dev department at Marvel, they would start creating some of the characters, the creatures, the looks, the environments, of sort of general guidelines of this is where we want them to go. And we take that initial artwork and then start developing it into a grounded, realistic looking creature. That's quite a different challenge, and that's, I think, where visual effects comes in, which is so exciting.
So then how do you take a fantastical creature like Morris or the Great Protector and make them feel as real as the other characters on screen?
I think it's very easy to design something as a CGI character that is otherworldly, but it's very difficult to relate to it and to therefore believe it. So you always have to try and find things that you can grab hold of as an audience, because you never want the audience to sort of step outside of the film. You always want them to be sort of fully engaged.
Well, I know that Morris stole my heart. How did you work with the team to create his overall look and characterization?
Morris was a very interesting character to work with. His sort of characterization is that he is a faceless, six-legged, winged, furry creature. So yeah, trying to find a way for that character to emote and look cute and friendly without a face has been incredibly challenging. We obviously looked at different animals out there in the real world. Is he like a bear the way he walks, or is he like a dog on tiptoes? Is he like a horse when he trots, or, what does a skeleton look like? And so there were an awful lot of animation tests that we did early on to try and figure out the mechanics of how he moved. The other thing you have to really consider is how the feathers work and the wings. And so we're looking at ostriches and other strange looking creatures, trying to really figure out not only the ergonomics and the mechanics, but the physiology and the aesthetic to try and make it feel as real as possible.
So when Morris is in a scene with another character, what are the actors using as reference?
So during filming, obviously one of the key things is trying to explain to the actors exactly what it is they would be looking at. The way it was manifested on set was a big green cushion that the actors had to lift up and hold and stroke and prod. We had Morris on a stick. We were able to sort of puppeteer him across the floor to act as an eyeline.
So once you get that footage from set, how do you go about actually bringing Morris to life?
The first thing is tracking it in relation to the camera and in relation to the world and in relation to the actor. You can then start replacing the cushion with a CG character that you've created. The big challenge then is the interaction. And obviously with Morris particularly, he's got fur and he's got feathers. And so we would have our actors be touching the green form, and then we would replace that green form with our furry character. And then it's a matter of lighting it and rendering it so that it looks exactly like the lighting on the actors and the set pieces around them. And it's a very, very careful process of compositing that character into the scene correctly within the set and under the fingers and all that kind of stuff. And it takes many, many weeks, months to do an individual shot to get it to look as real as it does in the film.
So the other creature we gotta talk about is the Great Protector. When you saw the Great Protector in the script, what went through your mind?
I thought to myself, I can't believe I'm going to be making a movie about a dragon. That's so cool. This was an interesting character in many ways because it wasn't the normal traditional Western dragon. It doesn't have wings. It doesn't breathe fire. You'll notice in the film that whenever you see this particular character, she is always moving. She's always slithering and sliding along through the air. We looked at eels and water snakes, of how they travel through water, and used a lot of that as reference for our movement.
So once you understand the movement, what kind of prep goes into a scene where you know the actors are going to be interacting with this creature?
One of the great things about this particular dragon is we have characters actually riding it. Because of that, we had to build what we would call a buck. And we went to our visual effects company who was working on the dragon. We then asked them to create a simplified version of just the head portion, particularly, and a small portion of the body that people were able to hold on to and sit on and sort of interact with. So putting this whole piece onto a gimbal so that it rotates and spins and moves and tilts and everything. And then we photographed our actors sitting on this thing with wind and sometimes rain to imply that they were going through water. And then we added big camera moves trying to emulate the sense that they were flying. It's very, very challenging to try and make that stuff look real, but I think, it's an incredibly fun challenge.
So once you have that footage, what kind of processes does it need to go through with VFX?
The challenge, particularly once we'd actually got this photography, was then putting that into our world of Ta Lo, which is where the dragon exists in this sort of mythical place. We also have to figure out where the camera is in relation to the body of the dragon, and then track in the dragon so that the dragon now is a CG dragon. And then on top of the real world camera that we have, we then add additional camera movements, and we then start building our CG world around that and start putting in all other action beats.
Now looking back at this incredible film and all of the characters you got to help create, what was your favorite part of working on this project?
I've been very fortunate in my career working with Marvel to do several Origins films, and they're always really fun. There's an overall aesthetic to the film that leans into some aspects of MCU sort of history, but also the great thing about an origin story is you get to develop your own look. And I'm looking forward to seeing what an audience thinks of the film.
Thank you so much, Chris. And of course, everyone go see Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in theaters now.